there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. So today I want to talk to you about patterns and old, worn-out, tired-ass stories. Okay, I believe it was Einstein that said something to the effect of, if you keep doing the same thing, you get the same result, and that is definitely the definition of insanity, waste of time, stupidity, ridiculosity, however you want to catalog that. It's just a waste of effort on whatever level. And so what I want to bring to you is that when we're set in our patterns and in our ways and in our thoughts, our old paradigm, the age of Pisces, and we refuse to notice and see that there's change afoot, there's change necessary everywhere. It is happening. We are cataloging a lot of time in the Revelation period, if you go with the Bible, or the Kali Yuga, whatever story you use. We're in the destruction phase of an old paradigm and into the new paradigm, and in the age of Aquarius. In whatever way you look at it, even if you don't take it into a biblical spiritual context, we can see that things are being torn down everywhere. So it doesn't matter to me how people relate or understand, as long as they can see and they can understand that change is necessary. We don't have any choice in that. We're forced through the way that we live here on the planet to go through routine change, regular change all the time, through the seasons, through growing up, etc., etc. The only constancy in the universe, or the only consistent thing in the universe, is change. That's it. And so what I want to offer to you is that when people are going round and around and around and around in old circular tracks of just garbage, that this doesn't work. You know, try something new. So throw something different in there to see what kind of a different response you get. Here's what happens. I work with with special needs kids and adults primarily, people with special needs, period, but high functioning autistic children a great deal. And I have autism, so I understand it from my perspective of what it is to be on the spectrum, to have some needs, to look at things differently, because as you know, neurodivergent people, sometimes we can get very riveted on our routines, our patterns, and our stuff. You know, the whoopee becomes super duper hella important sometimes. And so anywhere that I can break my own self out of those whoopee experiences, I do. Not to take away a comfort item just blindly or blithely, but to take away a comfort item that's becoming so comfortable that I'm gonna need to have it. If I don't, oh my God, my whole world is destroyed. Because what's the only thing that's consistent in the universe is change. You know, just about the time that I would get super duper comfortable with something happened, and Kate had to change her mind. So that's how I knew, you got to change your whole mind about how you're looking at these kinds of things, Kate. That every single time I sat down and got my self plumped up and comfortable, something happened that disrupted that in my world. And when it all finally came crashing down to, now's the time to either live or to die, literally. What are you choosing here? Are you going to pick up and get this lesson that stop doing these same old patterns, just finding a different articulation on the same floor of the old hotel? You know, you're still on the basement of the hotel. You want to get out of this whole entire hotel. You got to take the elevator somewhere else, or you know, at least get to the penthouse in this so you can fly up and see where you want to be, besides in this dingy, worn out, busted, dilapidated, you know, foreclosed upon hotel, this old life, this old way. And so, you know, that's my story personally, is getting slammed to the ground so hard because I refuse to see that there's a need to make change here, Kate. You've got to stop doing things that are self-destructive. You've got to stop communicating around circularly with people and with yourself. And so it's taken a long time to be able to identify those patterns. However, it's necessary, and I'm in a pretty good place with that. So much so that my work with neurodivergent people primarily, like I said, however, I work with special needs, period, of all kinds. However, my specialty happens to be with working with people who are more like me, because I kind of understand that need for, or the perceived need for, I got to do it this way. It's my way. My anxiety will take me here, and I can't, you know, I'm going to throw a fit and have zero capability of dealing with this emotionally if I do not have it this way. Or my neurology just doesn't have a way to deal with and process the disappointment or the anger or the explosion or the dysregulation of what it is when shit isn't going right, or it's not the way that I'm used to. There's a special need, let me just put it out there, with neurodivergency to take special care of our neurological system. So I'm not disputing that. I'm saying that once we get to a point where our neurology is regulated better, that we've gotten the dysregulation under control, and we're not constantly just, twitching and itching and bitching about stuff, then it becomes easier to be able to observe from a more neutral position, because we're residing in a neutral position. It's hard to get to a neutral position from an excitable state or from a state of meltdown. That's going to need to run its course. To be able to get to neutrality. It's a matter of keeping neutrality, knowing exactly what that feels like and how may I return to it. So I question myself a lot. I go through a lot of self-interview and ask, why is this important to you? What is it that you're trying to gain from this situation? Why are you not willing to look at this differently? What can you say here or do here that's not even remotely in the same hotel, that you're in the basement with this stuff still, just poking around, looking at different rooms at the same level? You got to go to another floor to try to bring something different to this. Otherwise, you're just bringing the same dingy, dirty energy to this, or the same confusion, or the same irritation or anxiety. You're still bringing the same level. And even more, when I'm meeting someone else at that level that they're in the basement, and I crawl down into mine and go, cool, I easily just got into the dumbwaiter and went, let me get in the basement with you and match your disaster. And so we can just keep spitting this back and forth like we're used to. And so, as I said, getting out of that tweaked out space with my own neurological system, to know what it is to have my nervous system calm, majority of the time. I can tell that I have a whole lot of, intuitive skill now, because I've been in observation mode more consciously in the last 5 years. I can kind of sense that stuff coming. I can see it. I can hear it. And when people are coming at me with very patterned, just very patterned behaviors or commentary, dialogue, the story that, oh yeah, I've seen this movie before, we're going around and around and around and around. And I swear to you, it's the creepiest thing, because I'll hear people saying things that it's not verbatim, however, it's verbatim energy, that they're not maybe saying the same exact dialogue, however, they're in the same thread of just old common patterns from my life, that anytime that it's swinging back through, especially during portal times, it's time to burn that off and get rid of it, move it on, alchemize it, recognize the pattern, throw some light on that, and then offer a different venue to look through and to change it. Once you observe it, quantum entanglement tells us that observing that entanglement changes it for both sides of the entanglement. The observation of something changes it. So observe it, and observe it in a different way. Observing it and being angry at what we see, etc., really doesn't help a whole lot. Observing it and offering it a higher mind is where real alchemy takes place, and takes care of how we can move forward in dealing with those imbalances within us. So let me bring up something that happened recently in my world. As I said, I work with special needs people, primarily on the spectrum, and I was in a situation where it was a group situation with several autistic children, several children with autism, and there was a little spat going on between two of them. One was getting a little bit frosty with the other, and kind of teasing her, and I was just observing this because I don't know that situation very well, and it wasn't really truly my place in that particular situation to step into the middle of that to break up whatever it was. As a worker, as an employee, it became a need immediately, because I was the only adult in the room at the time that this happened, that Kate's going to need to step in, because she's the only adult here that can offer something, just out of a sense of obligation to, these are kids and their children. They don't understand how they're supposed to go forward. Neither one of them gets this, and we can't have this turn into, an all-out brawl any further than it already did. So initially I was just sitting back thinking, okay, I don't know these people, I don't know these kids, and I don't know how that's going to play out, but let's just sit, and observe this, watch and see how is this unfolding, what is this for me to do here. And what ended up happening is the one was kind of, as I said, mildly teasing, not huge, but mildly teasing the other from my perspective. Now, from the recipient's perspective, that was too far over the line. It breached her no effing way zone, and she flew off the handle, screamed. It was way seemingly out of the blue. If I didn't know that this child was on the spectrum, I could have been taken by surprise. Absolutely. And I was kind of, however, I do know that about this situation. So the child, the young adult child was just off the charts with screaming and actually threw something, but did not throw it at the other child, which was good. However, it was very obvious she was frustrated and she had reached her boil over point, and her neurological system, she was just starting to really get, very agitated, even more so. And it stepped up quickly from being, slightly agitated to the rocket blasted off, within 10 seconds, and stuff was flying. And I said, hold on a second, hold on a second. Moving from that observation mode, being able to quickly identify that, yeah, shit going down. I don't have time to stand back or call for help or, anything, because somebody will be on the ground face down, getting their butt torn up if I don't interact here or interject some logic and some peace and some authority of something here. Bring something different, because these are people that know themselves very well. These people know each other very well. They see each other every day, and apparently there's some familiarity that this has been a standard that's okay. Not putting any stink on. I'm just saying that apparently this is a pattern that they're used to at this juncture with each other, and I'm not. And no, it's not a responsible thing to do, to just let a very toxic pattern continue just because I think I don't know the situation. I do know that situation. I've lived it, I've seen it, I've breathed it, eaten it. We've all seen that stuff where somebody just pops off into their emotion. Now the difference here, of course, and again, not putting any stink on the neurodivergent community, it can be neurospicy, and I understand it. I get it. I totally do. However, no matter what the community is that I'm dealing with, I need to offer something different to this, because apparently whatever has been happening allows that to turn into this without any kind of reprimand or guidance or any kind of interjection of this is not a standard that we're going to keep anymore, not while I'm around. That no, we need to establish better order in this situation, and it's not going to be to respond or react in that manner. It's not healthy. It's not good for you to be set off that far, and it's not good for you to have things thrown at you. This is a toxic situation that has no winners in it. For a very short amount of time for a fuse to pop off, no, we need to find another way to do this. So when I turned to the one and said, hold on a second, I said, please stop throwing things. You may not do that. That's an absolute no-no. And speaking to someone that's upset and telling them to calm down and all that other stuff, that's a bad thing to do. I don't want to hear that stuff myself, 1313. And particularly, I do know that in the neurospicy community, that's oftentimes a very big trigger, because it comes with the overtone of, don't be so ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. So there's some baggage with that, commonality. But I don't know anybody that likes to be told, calm down, when they're already over the edge, So I said, hold on a second, no, I understand you're upset, etc. And the dialogue went on. However, my point is, more importantly, that to interject something different into this routine here, because this is a well-worn pattern and an old routine that apparently is done a lot, so much so that there's just, freehand with chucking stuff, saying stuff, and, I don't know how far that goes with other people. However, I know how far it goes with me, that I don't want to get involved in a takedown in this situation, or breaking up some, brawl in the middle of this social environment. I'm not interested. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to prevent that stuff and to educate, a way that we can do this differently, to interject and be that change and show them new steps. You know, here's how we aren't going to do it this way. Then what are we going to do? Let's interject something different on a different floor. Don't offer a different room of the same grungy, what are you doing? That doesn't help. So when I interjected and said, hold on a second, it took this person a few minutes, young adult, very young adult, you know, less than 20, but an adult technically. So it took her a few minutes to kind of gather herself. I said, you know, no, unless you can, you know, walk away and go sit down and diffuse yourself, you know, you may not stand here and continue to scream and throw stuff. No, you're welcome to stand there and take a few breaths and, you know, just collect yourself when you're ready to, you know, move on with this, to clear this. However, you may not stand here and do this anymore. And it took her a couple of minutes to believe that, yeah, no, this isn't, I know you're used to just plowing forward and whatever this dynamic is. However, you know, Kate's here now throwing the monkey wrench in of, no, you know, no, because it doesn't feel good. Even if it feels really nice to pop off, you know, for the kettle to blow its steam off, it feels kind of good in that minute, and yet there is a sense of out of control, and I know I'm out of control. And you know, humans like to believe that we can just set off and say and do, and that we just feel really good about that, and we do in that very unique moment. We feel good about having released the pressure. However, the truth is it logs in our heart and soul that we know we were out of control with it, and there's no sense of, you know, empowerment in knowing that other people have the ability to set us off, you know. So even if we aren't consciously aware of it or willing to admit it, humans do not like to feel out of control in our own emotions. They are ours, and we can't do anything except go home with that. We can try to blame, you know, other people and stuff and say, well, it's because she did this and she did that. Well, it's still you that allowed that person to have that kind of control over you and your emotions. So, and we know that inherently somewhere within us, even if we don't consciously admit it or want to admit it, that is the truth. So anyway, after this person kind of calmed down and, you know, she was still seething, but she wasn't screaming and she wasn't throwing anything. These are good steps. That's positive. I said, thank you very much that you've adhered to what I asked you to, that, you know, you're not throwing anything and you're, you know, keeping your mouth in check. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you're listening to me. We can go forward when you're ready. And I said, can you just take a breath right quick, you know, just take a deep breath, help get some oxygen in there, help, you know, chemistry and physiology get in there to help this situation. You know, she didn't need to know that, but I do, that it helps to get some fresh oxygen into the blood and into the brain. You know, we often shallow breathe or pant when we're angry, and so let's get a full deep breath into and get that oxygen, full oxygenation of the brain, so we have all our faculties, and it helps helps to switch that lizard response of, you know, that's already engaged. Let's go ahead and see if we can turn the switch on that, tone that little sucker down, get a breath in, and actually feel that shift. Right? You can see it in people's eyes, and we can feel it in our own selves when we're doing that. We really can. Once we're skilled in being able to do that, we can identify it better and better and better, enough so that we can prevent it from needing to be switched off to begin with. However, I looked at her and I said, now if you can just, you know, take a deep breath in, and then we'll proceed with the conversation. And she followed that guidance as well, and I said, thank you. And then I said, can you tell this person over here that you don't appreciate what she did, that you don't like that, and please do not do that again. The teasing thing, that even from my perspective, it didn't seem like a big deal. From the person that was doing it also obviously didn't seem like a big deal. However, for that person, it was a big deal, and she's allowed to establish her boundary. She's not allowed to establish her boundary with throwing objects or screaming. You know, that's not allowable in a social environment or anywhere else. It's not allowable for realsy and gracious society, and that's what I'm there to do, is help people learn how to deal with their emotions so that we can interact in a kind and loving way and set boundaries without needing to, you know, draw the sword out to do so. You know, you don't have to behead someone someone to set a boundary. You know, if you do, they've missed a cue a long time ago, and you know, there's a lot of negotiation and mediation that could have happened before then, probably. However, you know, let's start back here, because we're already back here, and you know, let's see if we can avoid the slaying part, you know, and we'll deal with that if we get there. However, let's prevent that from happening to begin with. And so, you know, we talked about it, and I said, can you offer with your mouth, you know, in a tone of voice that is respectful and is kind and is very clear? Can you say with your words, I don't like that, I don't want you to do that, please don't do that. Whatever the words are that you need to say that tell this person, I don't like being teased, and I don't like that. That is teasing me, and I asked you to stop. You did not, you know, and I would appreciate you not doing that again. And when I said those words to this person, that's when that click happened of, huh? She literally looked at me and I said, oh, it let me in on a few things that this person hasn't learned yet, or hasn't been told yet, that you have to insert something different into the situation to get a different result. And so no one has told her that, you know, you can use your words in a, you know, tone of voice that's, you know, you don't have to be library quiet. However, it can be heard much better if you're not screaming. You know, can you find a respectful way and a, you know, calmer way to say what you need to say with very clear boundaries? You know, just use your voice in a different way. That the look on her face was, you know, just astounded and brilliant. Just, you know, what? It amuses me every time I see it, every time I see it in myself, like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. You know, that we literally sometimes just need an outside party who's not involved in the emotional side of it. I got no investment in that. You know, this is my job, this is what I do, you know, and I'm not here getting invested with you emotionally, you know. Emotional tie can really change a dynamic immensely, and so it is easier when there's somebody who's not emotionally tied to all of it, can offer just, here's my observation, and here's possibility for how you can change this dynamic, you know, if you choose to. And I highly encourage that while I'm here, you're going to need to, because that's the setting here does not support this kind of, you know, primitive behavior and primal stuff. You know, we're more than that. So let's be more than that, and let's show and prove to each other that we can, because you care very much for each other, you like each other, you respect each other, generally speaking, and we're going to need to deal with conflict, because at this moment I'm not liking your behavior. However, the underlying theme is that I like you very much, I love you very much, whatever it is that, you know, and even if we don't, I love myself enough that I'm not willing to lose my cool at your expense. So anyway, it was a matter of inserting into that dynamic some new information, because a lot of times, you know, we scream at someone or we say something to someone and we say, why don't you stop, or you know, we say what we say, and yet we don't really interject something brand new into the conversation of, I don't like it when you do that, or please don't do that, I want this to stop. We don't interject something, we come at it from the basement. We're asking somebody to, you know, help us get to the penthouse by screeching, you know, from a different room in the basement. Like, you're gonna have to come out and step into the elevator, at least, you know, attempt to get to a higher perspective by looking at, you know, what is going on here and what can I offer, and offering more screaming, offering more conflict, offering more, how dare she, you know, getting into an ego battle. You're just, you know, rumbling around in the basement, grunting it even harder, and people are getting angrier, and it usually comes to a culmination of some explosion, which is, we already had that. We had a small explosion with the, you know, object being thrown and the screaming, and that can escalate even further, and it has to come down at some point. Whatever goes up must come down. Well, let's get that down and de-escalate that mess before it turns into something more catastrophic that just piles in on itself and becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger problem, and it doesn't address the problem. It doesn't help a person learn how to regulate their own emotional needs or their nervous system, or help them learn how to regulate a situation or de-escalate anything about themselves or another person. If we can't de-escalate ourselves, we're going to be able to de-escalate another person. So the emotional regulation is a huge key component of that, and one of the best ways that I know how to help myself and other people is to not join them in their hysteria, not join them in their anger or their whatever it is. And if I'm already feeling that, learn how to really not expect people to engage with me at that level, and if they do, not come back at them anymore. Identify it early, and people that just seem to really enjoy that conflict and that crap, that's not where I work anymore, and that's not where I live, and that's not where I have my relationships, and it's certainly not where I care to be doing my life. So it's really about, what am I choosing here? Am I choosing to keep the conflict going because I like grunting around in the basement, or do I really want to be in the penthouse or in some other hotel, or some other experience other than this? And if I like grunting around in the basement, wow, I don't know why people do. I don't know why I did, other than I didn't know really how to get out of that situation, and I didn't really enjoy it for realsy. I know there are people who do really enjoy conflict. They really like starting stuff, and they really like keeping it going. They enjoy the drama, and all of that. I really didn't. I just was fumbling around looking for, the elevator out, didn't have somebody. I wish somebody had been able to say, look, insert something different here by understanding what your dynamic is in this. What are you bringing to this situation? Like inserting with that person, that young adult, that, look, what you're bringing is screaming and throwing stuff, and that's just not acceptable behavior here, so let's try something different, instead of telling her that she's bad, shaming her and saying, how dare you, but, or letting the other person engage in that ridiculous behavior. That's basement talk. We're all in the basement still here. No, somebody got to whip this sucker up into a higher perspective. Let's get into a ballroom, dance up here somewhere in a more graceful way, rather than, the Hart family dungeon down here beating the shit out of one another. It doesn't work. It doesn't bring any resolution. All it does is it tamps the fire down briefly until the next time it erupts. However, it's a tire fire that's still going. It's just a matter that later there's going to be more tires added to the pile, and it'll be a big conflagration again, and then we'll tamp it down, but it's always brewing. So I like to, let's completely close out this cycle and not do this anymore, and find a different way to resolve the problem and actually bring resolution to the problem. Now, is that problem solved for those dynamics there? No, it's not solved. It was solved in that moment to put a change, and then it's a matter of following up with, stop bringing tires, oil, fire, combustible materials. Stop bringing those, because you're going to start, and ignite this tinder over here very quickly. Now, I don't have control over that, and playing with people that like to continue to, round and around and around and around, that's where it's up to me to, do I do this because I like putting out fires everywhere, or, is this my life? Why am I here? And that's the conversation that I go home having with myself, punching into my job and knowing that's my job, and staying very, distant from it in the emotional space. That's how I do that, but I certainly don't want to live my life like that. So anyway, on my way to the horses, I can't wait to hear what they have to say today. Anyway, and I hope you enjoy your day no matter what part of the day you're in. Get within your skin, because your divine is absolutely fine, and it can help you to regulate your own emotions. It can help you regulate your nervous system. It cannot help you regulate somebody else's. It can help you to navigate somebody else's and help them possibly put, a stopgap in their emotion. However, you can't control anybody else. The only thing we can do is put some management on our own system and our own way of responding and reacting, and then we can better deal with whatever somebody else is doing and help them, to find a more comfortable spot with themselves. So, and if it happens, great, and if it doesn't, keep it moving. So, as I said, enjoy your day and get within your skin, because you're divine, absolutely fine. It's brilliant. Take care of yourself, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye, my friends. Mwah.